He left the crown. He left the country. He left his family. But now, Prince Harry is coming back. And this time, he is not coming back for a funeral, not for a wedding, not for a quiet visit. He is coming back to fight, in a British courtroom, against the very government that once protected him. And what happens inside that courtroom could change everything, not just for Harry, but for the entire future of the British monarchy. Welcome to Royal Report Daily, your most trusted source for breaking royal news and exclusive investigations. Tonight we are covering the story that has the entire United Kingdom talking, debating, and completely divided. Prince Harry's UK return and his explosive ongoing legal battle for government-funded security. This is not a simple celebrity dispute. This is a constitutional confrontation, and the outcome will set a precedent that will be felt for decades. Don't forget to subscribe to Royal Report Daily and hit that notification bell so you never miss a single update. Let's start with the facts, because in a story this big, facts matter more than ever. When Harry and Meghan stepped back from their roles as senior working royals in January 2020 and relocated to California, one of the immediate and most serious consequences was the removal of their Metropolitan Police security detail. This wasn't a personal punishment handed down by the palace. This was an automatic consequence of leaving the working royal structure. Your security status in the UK is directly tied to your official role within the institution. No role, no taxpayer-funded protection. At the time, Harry and Meghan said publicly they were willing to fund their own security privately. And they did, hiring a private security firm in the United States to protect their family in Montecito. But here is where the story gets complicated. Deeply, legally, explosively complicated. Because Harry's position was never that he wanted free security as a luxury or a perk. His position, the one he has been fighting in British courts with extraordinary determination, is that the removal of his UK government security has made it genuinely dangerous and practically impossible for him to bring his children to the United Kingdom. And that this removal was not just inconvenient, it was unlawful. Stay tuned to Royal Report Daily. We bring you the stories that matter. To understand why this case has gone so far and why it continues to generate such intense public reaction in 2026, you have to understand the body at the center of it all. The Royal and VIP Executive Committee, known as RAVEC. This is the government body responsible for making decisions about who receives protective security in the United Kingdom. It operates quietly, behind closed doors, with criteria that are not fully transparent to the public. And it was RAVEC that made the decision to remove Harry's automatic protection when he stepped back from royal duties. Harry's legal argument, pursued now through multiple rounds of hearings, appeals, and counter-appeals, is essentially this. RAVEC did not follow its own rules when it made that decision. The process was flawed. The decision was made without properly considering all relevant factors. And the result has been that a man who faces documented, credible, serious security threats, death threats, stalking incidents, the very real dangers that come with being one of the most recognizable people on the planet, has been left without adequate protection when he sets foot on British soil. His lawyers have argued that Harry offered to pay for his own Metropolitan Police protection, privately, out of his own pocket, so that he could visit the UK without putting himself or those around him at risk. And that offer was rejected. That rejection, his legal team argues, is the heart of the injustice. He wasn't asking the British taxpayer to fund his lifestyle in California. He was asking for the ability to visit his home country safely and offering to pay for it himself. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to Royal Report Daily for more exclusive investigations. The British government's position throughout this entire legal battle has been consistent. RAVEC followed proper process. The decision to remove Harry's automatic protection was correct and lawfully made. The criteria for government security are not simply about the level of threat facing an individual. They are also about that individual's role within the institution. Harry chose to step away from that role. The security status followed the role, not the person. And on the surface, that argument sounds reasonable, logical even. But Harry's legal team has consistently challenged whether RAVEC's actual decision-making process genuinely reflected those stated principles, or whether there were other factors at play. Factors that had less to do with formal criteria and more to do with the political and institutional sensitivities surrounding Harry's very public and very messy departure from royal life. This is the allegation that sits beneath the legal language and makes this case so much more explosive than a standard government security review. The suggestion, never stated directly in court, but hanging over every hearing, that Harry's security was removed not purely on procedural grounds, but at least in part as a consequence of the friction his departure created within the institution. That it was, in some sense, a punishment dressed up as a policy decision. Don't miss a single update. Subscribe to Royal Report Daily right now. In 2026, the case has reached a stage that nobody who watched Harry walk away from royal life in early 2020 could have predicted. The legal battle has become one of the longest-running and most closely watched royal legal disputes in modern British history. Each new hearing generates enormous media coverage on both sides of the Atlantic. Each new court document released into the public record is analyzed word by legal experts, royal commentators, and an intensely engaged public that has very strong and very divided opinions about who is right. In the United Kingdom, opinion polls consistently show a population genuinely split. There are those who believe Harry gave up his right to government protection the moment he chose to leave, that you cannot walk away from the responsibilities of royal life and simultaneously demand its privileges. These people see the security case as entitlement dressed up as principle. A wealthy man living in a Californian mansion, protected by a private security team, wanting the British taxpayer to additionally fund his visits home. And then there are those who see it very differently, who argue that the threats Harry faces are real and documented, that no British citizen, including former members of the royal family, should be denied access to their home country because of a government body's internal decision-making process, that the offer to pay privately for Metropolitan Police protection was a reasonable compromise that was unreasonably rejected, and that the underlying question of whether RAVEC's process was genuinely fair and transparent deserves to be tested fully in court. Subscribe to Royal Report Daily and stay ahead of every royal development. What makes the 2026 chapter of this story particularly significant is the personal dimension that has emerged alongside the legal one. Because Harry's argument is not purely abstract. It is deeply personal in a way that resonates even with people who are deeply critical of his choices. He has spoken publicly, carefully, through legal statements and controlled interviews, about what the security situation means for his children, for Archie and Lilibet, for their ability to have any real relationship with the country their father grew up in, with the grandparents, cousins, and wider family connections that are part of their heritage. Harry has said that without adequate security, bringing his children to the UK feels unsafe. That the practical reality of being Prince Harry, with the media attention, the documented threats, the complete absence of any private life the moment he sets foot on British soil, makes visiting without proper protection genuinely dangerous rather than simply uncomfortable. And that the people who suffer most from that situation are not him and Meghan, but Archie and Lilibet, who are growing up in California with increasingly thin connections to the country and the family that is part of who they are. This argument, whatever one thinks of Harry's broader choices, is one that many parents find difficult to dismiss entirely, because it moves the conversation away from the political and the institutional and into something far more human. The question of whether a father can bring his children home safely. Hit that like button and subscribe to Royal Report Daily right now. But the legal complexity of this case goes even deeper than the security question itself. Because running alongside the security battle in 2026 is a broader set of questions about transparency and accountability that have implications well beyond the Sussex family. RAVEC, the body at the center of all of this, operates with a level of opacity that critics argue is simply incompatible with modern standards of public accountability. Its criteria are not fully public. Its deliberations are not subject to normal scrutiny. Its decisions can have life-altering consequences for the individuals they affect, and yet the process by which those decisions are made is extraordinarily difficult to challenge. Harry's legal case, whatever its ultimate outcome, has forced RAVEC into a level of public scrutiny it has never previously faced. Court hearings have required the government to explain and justify its processes in ways it has never previously had to do. Legal documents have revealed details about how security decisions are made that were previously entirely hidden from public view. And for legal scholars and civil liberties advocates watching this case, that enforced transparency, whatever one thinks of Harry personally, is itself a significant and valuable outcome. The question of how governments make decisions about who receives protection and who does not, and whether those decisions are truly made on the stated criteria or influenced by other factors, is a question that matters far beyond any single family. Royal Report Daily, bringing you the truth behind every royal headline. In 2026, the question of what happens next has become genuinely difficult to predict. The legal process has gone through multiple stages. Harry has had partial victories, moments where courts have found that aspects of the process deserved further examination. And he has had setbacks, moments where courts have upheld the government's position on specific points. The overall picture is one of extraordinary legal complexity that shows no sign of reaching a clean and simple resolution in the near future. What is clear is that Harry is not backing down. Sources close to the Duke describe a man who has become absolutely determined to see this case through to whatever conclusion the courts ultimately reach. This is not being pursued as a PR exercise or a negotiating tactic. This is being pursued because Harry genuinely believes, and his legal team genuinely argues, that a wrong was done and that the courts are the correct place to have that wrong examined and, if necessary, corrected. The relationship between Harry and the British establishment, already extraordinarily strained after the memoir, the Netflix documentary, the Oprah interview, and everything that came before and after, has been made even more complex by this legal battle. Because every court hearing is a reminder that the break between Harry and the institution was not clean, that the loose ends are still there, still unresolved, still generating conflict years after the initial departure. For King Charles, the ongoing legal battle presents a difficult and painful reality. His son is in active legal conflict with his government. Every hearing generates headlines that place the royal family and its treatment of Harry back in the global spotlight. Every court document released adds another layer to a story that the palace would desperately prefer to move past. And yet the king has no direct power to resolve it. This is a matter between Harry and a government body, not between Harry and his father, even if the emotional and reputational consequences ripple across the entire family. For Prince William, the security case is a source of deep frustration for entirely different reasons. William has consistently taken the position, through his silence if nothing else, that Harry made his choice, that the consequences of that choice are Harry's to manage, and that the institution cannot be held hostage to the ongoing fallout of a departure that was Harry's own decision. William is focused on the future of the monarchy, on his own eventual role, on his children's preparation for royal life, on building the kind of stable, duty-focused institution he believes the country needs. Harry's legal battles, generating headlines, keeping the Sussex departure story alive, placing the royal family's internal dynamics back in the media spotlight, are not, from William's perspective, helpful to any of that. Don't miss a single update. Subscribe to Royal Report Daily right now. And yet here we are in 2026, and the case continues. The hearings continue. The court documents continue to be filed and analyzed and reported on. And Prince Harry continues to travel to the United Kingdom for each significant legal hearing, arriving quietly, with his private security, attending court, and departing again. Each visit a living demonstration of the very problem at the heart of his legal argument. A man returning to his home country under circumstances that he argues are unsafe and inadequate, fighting in its courts for the right to return differently. There is something almost Shakespearean about the image of it. The prince who left the kingdom, returning again and again to fight for the right to return safely. The institution that shaped him, defending in court the decision to withdraw its protection from him. The father who wants his children to know their heritage, unable to bring them home without what he considers adequate safety measures in place. Whatever one thinks of Harry, whether you see him as a man of principle fighting a genuine injustice or a man of entitlement unable to accept the consequences of his own choices, the human dimensions of this story are impossible to entirely ignore. The final question, and it is the one that will ultimately be answered by the courts, not by public opinion, is whether RAVEC's decision and process were genuinely lawful, genuinely fair, and genuinely made on the stated criteria. That is the question Harry's legal team has put before the British judicial system. And that is the question that the British judicial system will eventually answer. When it does, whatever that answer is, it will send a message about accountability, about transparency, about what it means to leave the royal family in the modern era, and about whether the institutions of the British state treat everyone, including former senior royals living in California, according to the same standards of fairness and due process that they claim to apply to all. The courtroom door is still open. The case is still alive. And Prince Harry, the man who walked away from the crown, shows absolutely no sign of walking away from this fight. This has been Royal Report Daily, bringing you the complete picture behind every royal headline. If this investigation gave you new perspective on Harry's 2026 legal battle, please hit that like button right now. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Share this video with everyone who is following this extraordinary story. Turn on your notifications so you are always the first to know when we publish our next exclusive report. Because the story of Prince Harry and the British establishment in 2026 is far from finished. There are more hearings coming, more documents to be examined, more decisions to be made. And Royal Report Daily will be right here, every step of the way, bringing you the truth behind the crown. Thank you for watching. Stay informed, stay connected, and we will see you in our next report.